right. Well, I think we are going to jump in because it's already 1:07. We have a few people missing, but we'll let them in as they join, and then we'll be able to share the recording after this. So without further ado, Marianne.
Hey, Lauren. Thank you for hosting. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I think a lot of you know me already. For those of you that don't, I'm just going to do a quick intro before we jump into the questions. So I'm Marianne Pfeiffer. I am the founder and principal of 108 Degrees, which is a small but nimble marketing agency here in Southern New Hampshire, but we work virtually. So my team is from everywhere. I'm a MailChimp Pro partner. It means I'm certified at the highest levels of MailChimp as one of their experts. I also work within other systems as well, from Constant Contact to Emma to all of them, because I've been doing email for a really, really long time. But I'm also a marketing speaker because I've been in digital marketing basically since the dinosaurs of digital marketing. I've been here kind of since all of this stuff has evolved. So back in the early days, we just had websites, and then we had email and websites, and then we had LinkedIn and little social media sites and so on and so forth. It's kind of been there for the evolution of digital marketing. And so I try to speak on topics of which I have knowledge. And that's what we're going to do today. So today we're having a workshop, and the difference between a workshop and a webinar, for those of you who have been my clients, you know very well, I give you homework. When we talk, we're going to find out what your next problem is to solve. And I'm going to send you off to do homework, because our philosophy at my organization is that an educated client is the best client. The more you understand about your marketing and the work that needs to be done, even if you're having us do it, the better your marketing results will be. And we've proven that for over 20 years. So we believe in educating our clients. So these little meetings are not just like a webinar where you're going to sit and listen in. I'm going to actually give active homework. So if what we're talking about makes sense to you, if you're like, yeah, this is really what I need, there's going to be, and we'll include that, the links to everything in our follow-up after the fact, links to homework that you can do. So articles you can read, resources you can access, just different things that we as professional marketers use to help do our jobs better so that you can learn a little bit more about it. Whether you decide to use it yourself or hire somebody else to do it, that's fine. At least you'll go in with an educated perspective. So, Lauren, why don't you lead us off with our first question?
I am going to go with Laura's question. Laura asks, how long should it take to start seeing ROI on digital ads like Google and Meta? And at what point do you stop paying for them if the ROI is too low? Thank you, Laura, for the question.
That's
Okay,
a
got
great
it.
question. So for a lot of businesses, Google ads are like a key critical lead funnel to bring people in. But the problem with Google ads, right, is that you have to pay for every person that comes through, and that can get really, really expensive. So it's great that you're thinking about ROI. Talk to me a little bit about the ROI questions you have. Is it all of your different Google ad campaigns, or is there our particular campaigns not performing?
Actually, it's kind of, we have a few different things, and not just Google, but also Facebook ads.
Mhm.
And I guess my question was more about like, how much money would you spend before you kind of like start to think, okay, maybe this isn't going anywhere? We have like a brand campaign, which is just very low budget and it's just ongoing. I don't really expect much ROI on that, but we just want to catch those people that are like already looking for our brand, and so they don't wander off somewhere else. We have a campaign that is aiming to bring in new students. We've been tweaking it as we go, but we had a campaign where we were offering some amount off of classes, and then that would feed into our booking software. So we had a way of tracking how many people actually purchased that offer. But then what ended up happening is, because our booking software does not necessarily talk to our to analytics, we could, like, as soon as people go into that realm, like, we've lost track of them. So there was no real way, other than them actually purchasing that exact thing, there was no way to know, like, are these people really converting? Because they could go into the booking software and find that offer, but then once they're in there, they can find all kinds of other things. So then maybe they buy something else. So they may be converting, but there's no real way for us to know. So if we're strictly looking at like what we do know, and we're not necessarily seeing specific sales for that exact offer, but we're seeing click-throughs, like at what point do you start to kind of cut the budget a little bit on that?
Sure. So this is really hard, right? Because you don't want to lose something that's high performing. You can't tell if it's high performing. So I think more of your problem has to do with tracking than it does with cutting. Okay. So let me talk about cutting first. So typically when we start working with a client on Google ads or Facebook ads or any kind of ad program, we say, give it 90 days with any program before you have measurable results that you can feel good about, because it typically takes about 90 days to streamline your offers, test a bunch of things and see what's working, get that back and forth to see what offer works, what headlines work, all of that kind of stuff, right? So I'm going to go with the assumption you've been doing this for more than 90 days. So you
Yeah.
kind of know what offers work. So
Yeah.
that's not as much of an issue. What should be happening is that at that 90-day mark, give or take, you should be able to say this one performs better than that one. And you should be able to calculate ROI because you know what you're spending on campaign A versus campaign B. And you should be able to see, all right, campaign A offers, this particular whatever the offer is, whatever their click through is. In the case where you're feeding direct into software that doesn't have a built-in system for Google Analytics, which some of them do, some of them don't. It depends on your industry. The one that you have doesn't allow for that. So if you can't do that, you sort of need to build outside of that. You want to build something. I know what you're trying to get to is you're like the minimum number of clicks to get them in to purchase something. And that's really important. But if you can't tell if they're purchasing something, then you're going to have to back it off a step and land them on a page where you can
We
track
do have that. Yeah, we have that. But then the button that takes them to the offer is,
Okay.
that's where there's just no way to track. We just lose them at that point. There is a way, the button says in our booking software, I can see, okay, this many people converted or didn't convert with something, but that's not always accurate, I guess. So yeah, I think, in our case, it's a little complicated. So I know this isn't very applicable for everybody's case.
But actually, a lot of people do have this problem because tracking is really, really hard. And what I will tell you is, if you were paying me to run your Google ads, okay, there is absolutely no way that I would allow you to be getting bookings that I can't track, right? Because how do you know that you paid me for anything that's worthwhile? It would be like, very poor ethics on my part to take credit for all the sales that I can't track, right? So have you ever used a kind of software, something like maybe an Unbounce or something like that, where you would lead people through and you'd have some more clear tracking? I think the issue is that the efficiency of letting people book through the software is fantastic, but if you can't track the dollars it's costing you, at a certain point, you're kind of throwing money down a hole and you're never really going to know. You need to really figure out, maybe with something like an Unbounce, maybe with something like, I'm trying to think, maybe taking a look at WordStream offers some good solutions they have benchmarks at very least, so you can see how
what do these software do? What is their...
So Unbounce is a software that you use basically for like landing pages and running campaigns, right? So people would come in and you would collect their information and you would have to negotiate a way to sort of get information. You're not going to have them book directly in the software. You may have to manually book them into the software in order to track that. And maybe you don't have to do it all the time. Maybe you just do it for, a couple of months so that you can see and track and learn what it's doing. But you've got to get that tracking in place. WordStream optimizes advertising. So you can take a look at that one, and I'll include that in the slides from this presentation so that you have more information on it. But they also have some great benchmarks. Like, they just provide a lot of data. So there's a lot of great benchmarks. You can see, like, are my campaigns performing to those benchmarks for my industry? And maybe something like that will help you kind of gauge and go, well, this one's doing great, so we know it's working. This one's way below industry average. It's probably not working. That might be helpful too. But I would say, more so than the auto flow of convenience, you really need to get tracking in place, because then if you track it for 3 or 4 months and you're like, listen, I know that this is performing because I've seen it perform, then even if you were to send people direct into the software and the clicks were unchanged and the spend was unchanged, you would at least know that it's probably doing the same thing. Okay. We don't spend money without tracking it. Like, I can't, like, ethically, I can't spend the client's money without tracking it. You're willing to give it a little wiggle room because it's your own business, but maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that because in our case, in order for somebody to book a space in a class, right, they need to go to the booking software to book that space in that class. And if somebody booked a space on something else, like let's say Unbounce, and then I had to manually do it, between the time that I manually put them in the class and they've, clicked through or whatever, they might lose the spot in the class. So there's just like these
So you have to think logistically from the other
Yeah.
side. You can't automate this, right? Because
Yeah.
with what you know, I wish you could and you should be able to, but unfortunately, either you change the software you're using so that you use
Yeah.
software that works with Google Analytics. I mean, I would complain to your software vendor, honestly. I'd be like, listen, how do you expect me to
Yes,
sell my classes,
absolutely. We
right?
have.
But you're going to have to like rethink the logistics of how people are signing off. Maybe you can take classes and like inventory them and not allow people to book them and save them so that you can use them for Google. I don't know, but
Yeah.
the only way to get you a really good answer on your ROI is to get you data. So you've got to figure out, otherwise you're throwing money in a hole. Maybe it's good
Right.
money, maybe it is doing something, but you're never going to be able to tell.
So
Got to
let's
be.
say you do have tracking,
Mhm.
and then you're not seeing really results, right? Like the results being sales, right? Like
Mhm.
that's really all you're looking for.
Yeah.
At what point do you just like nix the campaign? Like how long do you wait until, or how much money do you throw at it before you kind of give up?
Depends on what your overall budget is, right? It depends on globally, like how much you're spending. It also depends. There's a lot of it depends in there because, you have some classes that you guys run all the time, right? And so
Right.
classes that you're running all the time, I would say if this one's not performing, let's change the creative and see if we can get it to do anything better, right? Or let's, switch out something in the initial offer to bring people in. But you have some classes that might be more seasonal or they might be more short term, right? And those you have to sort of take, you know, I would look at that holistically as a package and say, like, I'm doing geriatrics yoga class or something like that, right? And it's an 8-week session and I'm selling this many spots for it. And you sort of look at that as one package and you try it one time. And if it doesn't really work that one time, maybe you tweak it and try it a second time. But if, 2 shots and you're spending money on it and you're not making it back on those classes, then that advertising method doesn't work for those particular classes.
Yeah.
But I would keep continuing to tweak the ads. The other thing is, can you do something? Typically what you're looking for is the immediate sale. You want somebody to see the ad, visit your website and register right away. But
Yes.
maybe that's not everybody. Maybe there's some people who need to be, convinced that they should try aerial yoga. So if they need to be convinced, how do you convince them? If somebody were to walk in your doors and you were to talk to them, you probably have handouts, you probably would give them a tour. You have a bunch of sales tactics that you normally use to bring somebody in and maybe help them overcome a little fear or help them feel more confident that this is right for them. Maybe some of your clicks need that. Maybe they're not really ready to book right now. So
Mm.
take it from the perspective of there are different customer types and they're not all ready to book. So maybe some of your budget should be reapplied to somebody who's a little bit further up in the funnel and isn't quite ready to buy yet. And that will at least grow your email list.
Yeah.
And then you guys have great email funnels. You can use those email funnels to bring people along and bring them on the ride. And then when they're ready, they'll sign up. Now, attribution on that might be a little hard, right?
Right.
So that's where your tracking comes in, where you go, where was the original source for this person? Maybe it took them 2 months to actually come and take a class, but at least you'll be able to attribute that back to those Google ads where they came from in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough.
It is tough when your software doesn't talk to each other. It is really
Right.
tough. It's not an easy problem to solve. So
But you equate like sales kind of to like collecting people's information. Like those two are somewhat even in your mind because you're still potentially going to then sell to those people as long as you have their info.
So if you think about like that traditional lead funnel, right, where there's people at the top of the funnel, they're just exploring, people at the bottom are ready to buy. I mean, I will with ads take anybody at any stage of the funnel and work to convert them, right? Especially if you have geography on your side and you're running campaigns, because geographically, like somebody who's 150 miles away is not going to sign up for a lot of classes. But somebody who's in like a 20-mile radius could come and buy a pack and come back again and again. So it definitely makes sense to do what you can do to just get that person on your list, because maybe they'll come twice a month, but they'll come twice a month for the next 5 years. That's still worth the, $4 you had to pay to get them onto your list.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that helps. Good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Will do.
All right,
Okay.
Lauren, what do we have next?
We have another question from Juliana, who was not able to make it, but I told her we would answer the question anyway. And she says, our marketing team has not been actively using our social media. How can we get back to it and make a plan for regular content? Does having scheduled posts really work? She always thought that social media was an organic marketing tool, but her team believes that they should review anything in advance and make a schedule. Maybe there is a happy medium.
Okay, great question. First, I want to discuss exactly what we mean by organic, because I think that some of the challenge is understanding what organic really means in social. So in social, we talk about organic and we talk about paid. So organic in terms of social media means something you didn't pay for, something that is posted and is naturally part of what your audience would see in their feed without paying for sponsorship. So in terms of what is organic and how we should use it, yes, you should be using organic social. You should be posting to your feed. You should be doing it regularly. Can it be scheduled? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with scheduling stuff in advance. In fact, there's not a client we work with that we don't schedule things in advance, because we require our clients to review any social post that we create, both the graphics and the text, before we put it out there. Video as well. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that no messages are sent at an inappropriate time with an incorrect timing that would be bad for the client. Say for example, we want to talk about a holiday that's coming up, but their team is not celebrating that holiday and they're not, they're going to be open. It's a regular day as usual. Then we're not going to have the same message as a company that's going to be closed on that holiday. So planned messages are fine. Scheduling them is fine. And people looking at them in advance is totally fine and probably for the best. So that said, how do you then use social in a way that is organic, right? And that isn't, it feels like it's part of the flow. I would suggest that you first of all have some planned posts. Plan to post 2 or 3 days a week with good, solid, evergreen information that people want to know about. But then you can go into the feed, and I have plenty of clients I work with who just plan that they're going to go onto LinkedIn on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. and interact within the feed. That type of organic interaction is something where you're going to see other people's posts and respond to them. You might, post something in response to something else that you've seen. You might share something that someone else has put out there. That's a great organic way to interact with the feed, but it doesn't stop you from putting information out in advance. And it certainly doesn't stop people from reviewing things in advance. For most of my clients, for most businesses, you need to have that kind of control, because without it, you are definitely going to lose the opportunity to build the engagement that you need.
Awesome. I have one more question. This might be up for a little bit of interpretation because our guest did not include much, but she's looking for ways to get more clicks. And so based on just that limited amount of information, do you have any thoughts on that and what that could mean? And
she didn't say if it was email or social, right?
she did not.
All right, I'm going to go with email because that's typically what most people are looking for. So they're looking for more clicks or an increased click-through rate. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about clicks and click-through rates is you can't get clicks if you don't have opens. First of all, you need to make sure that people are opening your email so that they can click through. And open rates are highly dependent on who the email is coming from, the subject line, and the preview text that you're using to entice the reader to open the email. And also even things like time of day and frequency of send. All of those factors are the first piece of the puzzle, right? You got to get the opens. Say you've got the opens. Fantastic. How do you get them to click? The click is going to come, first of all, from interest. Are they interested in the thing you're sending them? How have they expressed this interest? Did they subscribe? Did they ask about something? Have they purchased something in the past? Understand what their interest is so that you can then offer them something in the email that would be enticing for them to click through to. You also have to give them a reason to click. I have some clients that really don't focus on the clicks. They focus on the opens. They put all the content that the reader would need in the email itself. If somebody wants to click back to their website, that's great. But if they don't, it's fine. They're not concerned with that. They just want to get the information in front of them. But if you want to get them to click, if what you're looking for is click through, give them something, give them a reason to act. Make it be more than just read the rest of this blog post. Sure, that could be a great reason to click, but what about other things? What about things like download this information? Subscribe for this, register for that, take this survey, answer this poll question. Okay. Give them a reason to click so that you can see signs of life from that subscriber and know that they're there and they want to interact with you. Finally, make sure you reward that click. So if you promise somebody a GIF of a cat riding a bicycle with a birthday hat on and they click, make sure you give them that on the other side. Whatever it is that you are enticing them with, make sure that when they click, that you satisfy that by giving them the reward of what they need. So those are the things that are going to get you click. Try different tactics, try different ways to make people engage with you. If you're sending the same thing all the time, if it's always click through to read the blog, click through to read the blog, at a certain point they stop opening because they know where your blog is, right? But if you give them different options, like download this information that could be helpful to you, participate in this survey, answer some questions, and join us on a free webinar, those are things that will be a little bit different and stand out to them and give them another reason to interact with you.
I actually, we have one more. We have 3 minutes. Do you think?
Okay. I'll be quick.
This is from Jen, and she asks, I'm told we should be using AI to create more content, but I'm concerned about it. What do I need to know to make sure my company isn't using it the wrong way?
Yeah, so AI is a big topic and probably one we could do a whole workshop on, but let me talk sort of succinctly about AI and how you should be using it. And I say this as someone who is the brand guardian for many of our clients and has to make sure that everything that we do and all the content that we create is a protected asset. I also say this as someone who works with a lot of attorneys, especially intellectual property attorneys, to make sure that the content and the brands of our clients are protected. AI is a fantastic tool. I love it. We use it for a myriad of different things, but what we don't use it for is content creation. There's a few reasons for that. Some of it is quality based. AI doesn't really create great quality content, to be honest with you. But even more important than that, legally, and courts have ruled on this, legally, content created by AI is not protected content, meaning that if you have AI write you a blog post and you put that blog post out on your website, any one of your competitors can take that blog post, copy it exactly, put it on their website, switch out your company name for their company name, and there's nothing you can do about it because content created by AI is not protectable. It is not considered unique. It is not considered an asset that you can protect. So with that in mind, yes, you can use AI for a lot of things. AI is great for if you're, writing an email and you need like 10 different subject lines and you just want to like bounce some ideas off. Have it generate 10 different subject lines based on the content, the human written content of your email. Okay. And then you can A/B split test some of those or just kind of find the best ones in it. AI is great for idea generation. You have to put together a presentation with slides and you need some bullet points, or even, you need a base point to start for writing a white paper. You have some information and you need it to help you organize. AI is fantastic for that stuff. But do not use AI to create your own content because A, you can't protect it. Your competitors can steal it. B, doesn't do great for SEO. In fact, there are a lot of bot sniffers out there that know and sniff out AI content, and Google will in fact relegate your site if it finds too much AI generated content. And third of all, it tends to not represent your brand very well because it tends to not really feel right compared to your human written content. So yes, use AI. Yes, make it part of your thought process and maybe your planning process in content, but don't use it to build your content because that is only going to come back and bite you later.
Good
All
stuff.
right, that's my 3 minutes.
That's 3 minutes. Oh, we're at 1:30. I think we can call it. And thank you so much for everybody who joined. And also we will be sending around all the materials summarized with all the links and things to help the resources that Marianne shared and all that will get shared after the meeting.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.